night Luka's life changed forever. One phone call changed the future of the NBA forever. But while the basketball world was celebrating a new superstar arriving in Los Angeles, Luka Doncic was quietly walking into the darkest chapter of his life. The headlines made it sound glamorous. The Lakers had found their next franchise king. The future of basketball in Hollywood suddenly belonged to a 7-year-old generational superstar who could drop 40 points like it was nothing. Fans were screaming, analysts were losing their minds. Social media exploded overnight, but behind the flashing cameras, the purple and gold jerseys, and the massive expectations, something much heavier was happening that almost nobody fully understood. Because Luka wasn't just carrying the pressure of saving the Lakers, he was carrying heartbreak, he was carrying exhaustion. And according to reports surrounding his personal situation, he was also fighting to stay connected to the two people who mattered most in his entire world, his daughter. That's what makes this story different. This isn't just another NBA trade story. This isn't just another superstar changing teams. This is the story of a player trying to survive the biggest professional opportunity of his life while everything around him seemed to be collapsing at the exact same time. And somehow, the Lakers still decided to bet their entire future on him anyway. Think about how insane that really is. The Lakers are not a rebuilding franchise. This is not a small market team with patience to waste. This is Los Angeles. The pressure is immediate. Championships are expected. Every loss becomes national news. Every injury becomes a debate. Every mistake becomes a headline. And yet, even after the injuries, the playoff disappointment, the off-court emotional chaos, and the uncertainty surrounding the future of the roster, the Lakers looked at Luka Doncic and said one thing: you are the future. That decision shocked people around the league, not because Luka isn't talented enough, but because almost nobody realized just how much pain he was hiding behind the scenes while still performing at an MVP level in front of millions of people every night. What happened over the next few months would completely change the way fans looked at Luka Doncic forever. And honestly, some people still don't know the full story. Before we go deeper into everything that happened, I want to know where you're watching from tonight. Drop your city and country in the comments below. And if you believe Luka can still bring another championship to the Lakers after everything he's been through, type 1 in the comments. If you think the pressure in Los Angeles might simply be too much, type 2. And of course, don't forget to subscribe because this story gets even crazier from here. The trade nobody saw coming. On February 1st, at exactly 12 inches in the morning, the entire NBA world stopped breathing for a second. One tweet, that was all it took. NBA insider Shams Charania pressed send on what would instantly become one of the most shocking breaking news moments basketball had ever seen. Luka Doncic had been traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. At first, people thought the account had been hacked. Fans refreshed their phones over and over again trying to make sense of it. Sports shows scrambled to confirm the report. Even NBA players themselves were reacting in real time with pure disbelief. Because in today's league, nothing this massive stays secret. Superstars changing teams usually leak weeks in advance. Rumors start circulating, agents talk. Front offices test the waters. But this came out of nowhere. No rumors, no warning, no build-up, just complete chaos at midnight. And the craziest part? Luka himself reportedly never saw it coming either. The Dallas Mavericks had quietly negotiated one of the biggest trades in modern NBA history, completely behind closed doors. Luka Doncic, the face of the franchise, the player fans believed would retire in Dallas one day, was suddenly gone. The Lakers received Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris. Dallas received Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and future draft compensation. The moment the trade became official, the entire balance of power inside the NBA shifted instantly. But behind the scenes, this wasn't just a basketball move, it was fear. According to reports, Mavericks executives were terrified that if Luka ever discovered he was being discussed in trade conversations, he could eventually control his own destination by leveraging future contract options, so secrecy became the priority above everything else. No open bidding war, no conversations with multiple teams, no dramatic negotiations across the league, just one quiet phone call between Dallas GM Nico Harrison and Lakers GM Rob Pelinka. That was it. One conversation changed the future of two franchises forever. And once Lakers ownership realized they had a real chance to steal a generational superstar entering his prime, they moved aggressively and silently. Even people connected closely to the Mavericks organization reportedly had no clue how serious the situation had become until the deal was already completed. That's why the reaction in Dallas felt less like disappointment and more like betrayal. Fans weren't just angry because Luka left. They were furious because they felt their franchise gave him away. Overnight, Luka transformed from the Prince of Dallas into the new face of Los Angeles basketball. The pressure became enormous instantly. Every game, every quote, every performance would now be compared to Lakers legends before him. Magic, Kobe, LeBron, and now Luka. But while the basketball world focused on the blockbuster trade itself, almost nobody realized the timing of this move was about to collide with an even bigger storm happening inside Luka's personal life. And that storm was only beginning. Dallas didn't just lose Luka, they lost their future. The moment Luka Doncic walked out of Dallas, the Mavericks didn't just lose a superstar. They lost hope, they lost identity. And in the eyes of many fans, they lost the soul of the franchise itself. For years, Luka was everything. He was the kid who arrived from Europe carrying impossible expectations and somehow exceeded every single one of them. Every sold-out arena, every game-winning shot, every playoff run, every viral highlight, it all revolved around him. Fans believed they were watching the next Dirk Nowitzki, another international superstar who would spend his entire career wearing one jersey. That dream vanished overnight. And what made the situation even uglier was the growing belief that Dallas completely mishandled the entire process. The Mavericks reportedly never created a bidding war. They never forced multiple teams to compete against each other for Luka. They never explored the kind of historic package a 7-year-old generational player should command. Instead, they quietly finalized the deal with Los Angeles before the rest of the NBA even realized Luka might be available. That decision immediately became a disaster in public opinion. Fans started asking the same brutal question: how do you trade a player like Luka Doncic and not get more back? Sports radio in Dallas became toxic almost instantly. Angry fans flooded social media. Some people called it the worst trade in franchise history before Luka even played a single game for the Lakers. Others accused the organization of panicking behind the scenes and making a desperate move that could haunt the franchise for the next decade. And then came the emotional reactions that made everything even heavier. Mark Cuban, the man who had defended Luka for years, reportedly was not deeply involved in the final decision process before the deal was completed. That alone shocked fans, because many believed Cuban would never willingly allow Luka to leave Dallas if he had full control over the situation. Then Dirk Nowitzki spoke publicly, and when Dirk talks about the Mavericks, people listen. Because Dirk understands what franchise loyalty actually means in Dallas. He built that culture himself. So hearing disappointment in his voice hit Mavericks fans harder than almost anything else. Suddenly, the trade stopped feeling like basketball business. It started feeling personal. Meanwhile, things on the court quickly became ugly for Dallas. Injuries piled up, chemistry problems surfaced, the roster looked unstable. Every Lakers win featuring Luka made the criticism louder. Every big performance from him in Los Angeles reopened the wound all over again. And while Mavericks fans were grieving the loss of their franchise player, Luka was stepping into Hollywood, carrying pressure nobody could fully see yet. Because while the basketball world debated whether Dallas had ruined its future, Luka himself was quietly entering a personal crisis far more painful than any trade rumor. And soon, the public was about to find out that basketball was no longer the hardest part of his life. Hollywood found its new superstar. The pressure in Los Angeles destroys most players. Some stars arrive wearing confidence and leave carrying disappointment. The Lakers are different from every other franchise in basketball because greatness is not appreciated there unless it ends with championships. Fans don't care about excuses. They don't celebrate second place. In Los Angeles, superstardom becomes survival. And somehow, Luka Doncic walked straight into that pressure and immediately looked like he belonged there. The moment he put on the purple and gold jersey for the first time, the energy around the Lakers completely changed. Suddenly, the future didn't feel uncertain anymore. It felt alive again. Crypto.com arena became electric every single night. Every Luka step-back three turned into a viral clip within minutes. Every no-look pass exploded across social media. Every huge scoring performance pushed Lakers fans deeper into the belief that they were witnessing the beginning of a completely new era after LeBron James. But what made Luka's run even crazier was the timing. Because while critics expected him to struggle after the emotional chaos of being traded away from Dallas, he actually started playing some of the best basketball of his entire career. It almost looked personal, like he was trying to prove something to the entire league. Night after night, Luka attacked defenses with the kind of cold confidence only a few players in NBA history have ever possessed. Defenders looked helpless trying to slow him down. Double teams didn't matter. Bigger defenders couldn't stay in front of him. Smaller defenders got bullied instant, and Lakers fans loved every second of it. Then came the performances that truly made people realize this was becoming Luka's city. A 5-1 point explosion against Chicago. A 6-0 point masterpiece against Miami that immediately entered Lakers history. The numbers sounded unreal. Points, rebounds, assists, deep threes, clutch moments. Luka wasn't just producing superstar stats anymore. He was creating the type of performances people remember years later. For the first time since Kobe Bryant's final years, many Lakers fans started feeling that same emotional excitement again. That feeling of watching somebody who could completely take over a game whenever he wanted. And the scariest part, Luka was still adjusting. The chemistry with Austin Reeves was improving rapidly. The offense started flowing entirely through Luka's vision and pace. Even veteran players looked more confident around him because he made the game easier for everyone else on the floor. Inside the organization, belief was growing fast. This wasn't just a superstar acquisition anymore. This was the foundation of the next Lakers dynasty. But while Luka was dominating headlines on the court, his personal life behind the scenes was beginning to fall apart in ways almost nobody around the league fully understood yet. Because while fans were celebrating Luka as basketball's newest Hollywood king, Luka himself was quietly fighting to keep his family together. And soon, that private pain would become impossible to hide from the public any longer. The father behind the superstar. This is one of the biggest emotional turning points in the entire story. Because this is where Luka Doncic stopped looking like an untouchable NBA superstar and started looking painfully human. For years, fans only saw the basketball side of Luka's life. The highlights, the trash talk, the impossible shots, the smiling superstar dominating arenas in front of millions of people. But behind the scenes, the foundation of his personal life was quietly beginning to crack apart, and almost nobody realized how bad things had become. Luka and Ana Maria Goltes had been together for nearly a decade. To fans, they looked stable, familiar, real. They grew up in the same country, knew each other long before NBA fame entered the picture, and many people believed she would remain beside him for the rest of his career. Then Los Angeles changed everything. The trade didn't just move Luka to another team, it completely changed the geography of his family overnight. New city, new pressure, new expectation. Thousands of miles suddenly separated him from the people he cared about most. And according to reports surrounding the situation, the distance quickly became unbearable. When Luka traveled back to Slovenia for the birth of his second daughter, many expected it to be a beautiful family moment during a chaotic NBA season. Instead, reports later described the trip as emotionally difficult and deeply stressful. Luka returned to the United States alone shortly afterward, and rumors surrounding tension inside the relationship began spreading almost immediately online. At first, fans ignored it. Then the social media clues started appearing. Photos disappeared. Posts vanished. People began noticing Ana Maria removing traces of Luka from her Instagram account. NBA fans started speculating nonstop. Sports pages picked up the story. Suddenly, what was once private became public. Then came the announcement that changed everything. Luka officially confirmed the engagement had ended. And for the first time, people truly understood the emotional weight he had been carrying while still performing at an MVP level for the Lakers every night. Because this wasn't just a breakup. This had become a fight over time with his daughters. According to statements connected to the situation, Luka had been desperately trying to spend more time with his children while balancing NBA responsibilities in Los Angeles. Legal complications, travel, and long-distance family tension reportedly turned the situation into an exhausting emotional battle happening across two continents at once. Imagine that pressure for a second. One night you're expected to score 40 points in front of 20,000 screaming fans. The next morning you're dealing with lawyers, international travel, custody discussions, and emotional exhaustion. Most people would completely break under that weight. But Luka kept playing, and somehow he kept dominating. That's what made this chapter of his life so heartbreaking to many fans. Basketball became the one place where Luka could temporarily escape the chaos happening around him. But eventually, emotional pressure catches up to everybody. And soon, Luka's body would begin collapsing under the weight of everything he had been carrying for months. The moment everything started falling apart. For months, Luka had been carrying impossible weight. The Lakers expected him to become the future of the franchise. Fans wanted championships immediately. The media followed every move. And off the court, his personal life was already emotionally draining him. But despite all of it, Luka kept playing at an unbelievable level. Huge scoring nights, MVP performances, historic moments in a Lakers jersey. He wasn't just surviving in Los Angeles anymore, he was taking over the city. That's why what happened next felt so devastating. During a game against the Oklahoma City Thunder, Luka suffered a serious hamstring injury. At first, fans hoped it wasn't major. But the frustration on Luka's face immediately told a different story, and within hours, fear spread across the entire Lakers fan base. The injury came at the worst possible moment. The playoffs were approaching, the Lakers were gaining momentum, and Luka was playing some of the best basketball of his career. Then suddenly, everything stopped. Reports later revealed the injury was more serious than expected. Luka even traveled overseas for advanced treatment, desperately trying to speed up recovery and return before the Lakers' playoff run collapsed. But there was no miracle solution. Without Luka fully healthy, the Lakers looked vulnerable. LeBron James and Austin Reeves fought hard to keep the season alive, but once Los Angeles ran into the defending champion Thunder, reality hit hard. The Lakers simply didn't look complete, and as the series slipped away, one painful question kept following the team everywhere. What if Luka had been healthy? After elimination, Luka looked mentally exhausted. Not angry, not emotional, just drained. Months of injuries, pressure, criticism, and personal chaos had clearly taken their toll. But the hardest decision of all was still waiting for him, because after the Lakers season officially ended, Luka made a choice that shocked millions of fans across Slovenia and the entire basketball world. Slovenia had to wait. And for someone like Luka, that decision was enormous. Shortly after the Lakers were eliminated from the playoffs, fans expected Luka to shift his full attention toward representing Slovenia again. That had always been part of who he was. Ever since he was a teenager, Luka carried enormous pride playing for his country. International basketball wasn't just another tournament to him, it was personal. That's why what happened next shocked so many people. Luka officially announced that he would not play for Slovenia during the upcoming international competition window. The basketball world immediately exploded with reactions. Some fans understood, others criticized him instantly. But then Luka explained why, and suddenly, the conversation changed. In his public statement, Luka made something painfully clear. Right now, the most important thing in his life was not basketball. It was being present for his daughters. That single message hit people hard because this wasn't a superstar skipping games for rest. This wasn't load management. This was a father openly admitting that after months of emotional distance, legal stress, injuries, and non-stop pressure, he simply wanted time with his children. And honestly, it may have been the most human moment of his entire career. For years, fans viewed Luka almost like a machine. The smiling superstar who constantly delivered impossible performances no matter the pressure around him. But this moment reminded everyone that behind the fame, money, and highlights was still a 7-year-old man trying to hold his personal life together. What made the decision even heavier was what Slovenia meant to him. Luka had represented his country since he was a teenager. He helped bring pride to an entire nation. Millions of Slovenian fans viewed him as more than an athlete. He was a symbol of the country itself. Walking away from that, even temporarily, could not have been easy. But Luka's message was clear. Basketball could wait, his daughters could not. And in many ways, that decision changed how a lot of fans viewed him forever. Some stopped seeing only the superstar. They started seeing the father, the person, the human being behind all the fame. At the same time, the Lakers were watching everything carefully. Because while Luka was fighting to rebuild balance in his personal life, Los Angeles had already made a massive decision behind the scenes. They weren't backing away from it. They were preparing to build the entire future of the franchise around him instead. And that decision would send shockwaves across the NBA. The Lakers made their choice. And the message from inside the organization became crystal clear. Everything now revolves around Luka Doncic. Not LeBron James. Not the past. Not rebuilding slowly. Luka. That decision shocked a lot of people around the league because the timing felt risky. Luka was recovering from injury. His personal life was still emotionally complicated. The Lakers had just suffered a painful playoff exit, and uncertainty surrounding the roster was everywhere. But none of that changed the organization's mindset. The Lakers looked at Luka and saw their future franchise cornerstone. According to reports surrounding the team, the front office immediately began planning a roster designed specifically around Luka's strengths. Athletic centers who could catch lobs, two-way wings who could defend and shoot, faster transition player, more spacing, more energy, more players capable of complementing Luka's playmaking style. This wasn't temporary anymore. The Lakers were fully committing to the Luka era, and perhaps the clearest sign of that commitment involved Austin Reeves. Multiple reports suggested Luka strongly valued Reeves as a long-term teammate and wanted him protected from major trade discussion. The chemistry between the two guards had grown rapidly throughout the season, both on and off the court. The Lakers listened. That's when people around the NBA realized something important. Luka wasn't just the Lakers' best player anymore. His voice was beginning to shape the direction of the franchise itself. At the same time, Los Angeles aggressively started preparing for a massive offseason. Future draft picks, trade assets, cap flexibility, everything was suddenly being viewed through one question: how do we maximize Luka Doncic's championship window right now? Because patience was no longer part of the plan. And then there was the biggest question hanging over the entire organization: what happens with LeBron James? For the first time in years, the Lakers looked like a team standing between two eras. One legend potentially nearing the end. another superstar entering his prime. The transition was happening in real time right in front of the basketball world. But despite all the uncertainty, one thing inside the organization reportedly never changed. The Lakers believed Luka was worth betting everything on, even with injuries, even with pressure, even with personal chaos surrounding his life off the court. Los Angeles wasn't stepping away from Luka because of those struggles. In many ways, they were moving even closer to him. And now the pressure becomes even bigger. Because once a franchise officially hands you the keys to the kingdom, there are no more excuses left. Building Luka's new empire, once the Lakers committed to Luka Doncic, the mission became clear. Build a championship team now, not later. Now. The Lakers knew Luka didn't just need talent around him. He needed the right kind of talent. Athletic big men who could finish lobs. Defensive wings who could guard the best scorers. Reliable shooters who could punish every double team. Everything had to fit Luka's game. That meant future picks could become trade assets. Young players could become movable pieces. Cap space became a weapon. Los Angeles was no longer thinking about patience, they were thinking about urgency because Luka's championship window was already open. Austin Reeves remained a major part of that vision. His chemistry with Luka made sense. He could score, handle pressure, and play without taking the ball out of Luka's hands too much. But one giant question still hovered over the franchise. What happens with LeBron James? Would he stay? Would he retire? Would he chase one final title somewhere else? Nobody knew for sure. And that uncertainty made the Lakers feel like a team standing between two eras. One legend nearing the end, one superstar entering his prime. But inside the organization, the direction was clear. This was becoming Luka's team. Reports suggested Luka had already made one thing known. He did not want a slow rebuild. He wanted to win immediately. He wanted a serious roster. He wanted a real chance to compete for championships. The Lakers promised they would build that around him. Now they have to prove it, because if this gamble fails, the criticism will be brutal. But if it works, Los Angeles may have found the next face of basketball after LeBron James. And after everything Luka has already survived, the final question becomes simple. Can he turn all that pain into a championship legacy? The gamble that could change everything. Because in the end, this was never just about basketball. It was about pressure, sacrifice, family, legacy. And what happens when one superstar is forced to carry all of those things at the exact same time? Over the past year, Luka Doncic lost stability almost overnight. He was traded away from the franchise many believed would belong to him forever. He entered the most demanding basketball market in the world. He dealt with injuries at the worst possible moment. His personal life became emotional and complicated. And while millions of people debated his future every single day online, he was still trying to do something much simpler behind the scenes. Be present for his daughters. That's what makes this entire story so powerful. Fans often see athletes as superheroes. We see the highlights, the contracts, the fame, the points, the wins. But stories like this remind people that behind every superstar is still a real human being, carrying emotions, stress, fear, and responsibilities away from the spotlight. And honestly, that may be why the Lakers chose to believe in Luka even more strongly after everything happened. Because greatness is not only about talent, it's about resilience. The Lakers are betting their future on the belief that Luka can overcome all of this and still become the next legendary face of the franchise. They believe he can bring championships back to Los Angeles. They believe he can lead the next era after LeBron James. They believe the pressure won't break him. Now the entire basketball world is waiting to see if they're right. And maybe the most interesting part of this story is that Luka himself is still evolving, not just as a player, as a man, as a leader, as a father. Because sometimes the hardest battles in life happen far away from cameras and basketball arenas. At the end of the day, championships matter, legacy matters, but family matters too. And maybe Luka's story will remind fans that success means very little if you lose yourself completely trying to achieve it. Now we wait to see what happens next. Will Luka Doncic bring another championship to Los Angeles? Will the Lakers successfully build the perfect team around him? Will this gamble become the foundation of a new dynasty or one of the biggest risks in franchise history? We're about to find out. If you enjoyed this story, make sure you subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and share this video with other NBA fans. And before you go, I want your honest opinion in the comments. Type 1 if you believe Luka will win a championship with the Lakers. Type 2 if you think the pressure and expectations in Los Angeles are simply too much. And as always, thanks for watching.